What's up? I'm your host, Keisha from Put Your Phone Down podcast. I keep on bringing y'all food for your soul because I honestly think that it is so important. And today's topic is just one of the most important things that I feel I could bring to you. I'm on TikTok. You all know I haven't been on that long, but I go on there looking for what I can bring to the audience. And I see this educated brother on the news telling people what they need to know about their finances. And of course, I had to reach out. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Jason Matthews I'm sorry, I'm stammering. I have Jason Matthews of Matthews Financial and Insurance Solutions on the podcast. And you know what? We go talk about money. We go talk about everything, all things finances. And this is who you should go to. So, Jason, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. You see, I started stuttering at the beginning, so that means something because I don't think I've ever done that.
It's all good. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah, Jason, we go hop straight into it because I was telling you a few years ago, there was a comedian who made a joke and he said, you know what? We have to make life decisions between getting gas and food. Again, this was like maybe 2019, early 2020 when he made this joke. The audience bust out laughing because, of course, we think it's jokes. Now, here we are, 2025, and art definitely imitated life as far as now we standing in front of life decisions. Do we get gas or do we starve? Because it seemed like we cannot do both. What I'm hoping, and I know you will walk us through how we can get through this situation. So, first and foremost, when you have people still wanting to buy cars, still wanting to buy houses, and they are stuck with this decision, what would be your advice in moving forward with this?
Great question. First and foremost, I always tell people have a plan towards everything you're doing. I think one thing we do as individuals is we move by impulse and by our feelings about doing things instead of putting together a plan if we can make those moves. So oftentimes I always tell people is just make sure you do a couple basic things to make sure your foundation is correct. One of that is make sure you have your budget stick down, right? So you should always have your budget down on how much money you have coming in, what are your expenses at that point, and then make sure you know how much you are saving every period, right? Every time you get paid, you should be saving something, right? Now, the ideal world might be saying, hey, you need to save 20, 15, 20% of your income in an ideal world. But if you cannot, you start with where you can. And what I recommend is start with 1%. If that's all you can start with, and then every quarter, you bump it up from 1%. After 3 months, you raise it up to 2%. The following year, 3%. Then after you have your foundation correct, where you don't have no debt, you got some money saved up for a rainy day, because we all know rainy days do happen. Then you can probably look at, can you buy a car, a luxury car, right? Because if your car is fine, any car you buy is going to be a luxury just because you want it, right? Because you want to feel good about it. Or if you want to buy a home as well, but you put yourself in the right position first for that period of time.
So, would this year be a good year to start looking into those things, or are we waiting a little bit just to see what as you know what these prices is gonna be like?
So great question. So prices, I feel like when it comes to this whole thing with inflation, I think if you look at the last time we had inflation, it actually happened from 68 to 82. So it's about 14 years. And so, yes, you could be waiting for a long periods of time because we only been through this inflation now for what, 2 years, maybe three now. We're going approaching the 3 years. But what I always say is there's always opportunities to, if you want to buy real estate, you want to buy a car, and you just got to look for those opportunities, right? Maybe somebody's going through a hard time and you can purchase it. Maybe it personal thing. They're going through a divorce. A family member just passed away. They got this house that they need to sell for a reason. They're in massive debt. We need to move. If you can find somebody going through these opportunities and you think outside the box, then yes, it might be worth it, right, for you as a financial decision. I feel like, but oftentimes we see people making a buying a home, I want to feel like I accomplished something. It might not be the best situation for you at that time. So it really depends on your situation. But if you're going to look for something, look for some opportunities. Foreclosures are up right now, so you're with some deals. You might have to think outside the box, do some more creative financing compared to traditional financing. But I think right now we just got to go back to our grandparents, our great grandparents used to do when it comes to money and finances.
Yeah, I agree with that. So speaking of accomplishments, and that's what you had mentioned. We have a lot of people, and I know we talked about this off camera, where I was watching one documentary or something about how the government's end doesn't look at it as us struggling. And they put out the reason why, because during the pandemic and even afterwards, people were still posting. They were still posting that they were going out on trips, still posting that they were going out to eat. And this gave the government, Big Brother, whoever was watching, the impression, oh, they're not struggling, they're not hurting. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, do you think that people should scale back on posting, let's say, okay, I bought a house, I bought a car, because it might give the government an impression that we really aren't suffering?
The government knows you're suffering because they got all your documents. They know you how much you got at your bank. They know your mortgage. They know all your stuff because you file your taxes, right? You better file your taxes, I should say, before you don't get in trouble with the government. Now, am I a person who likes to post on a personal level? I am not posting what assets or things I purchased. Yes, they're a great accomplishment. It can inspire some people, but you also, to me, you also get people's haters, especially if you ever have a challenge, which we know we're all going to go through some challenges in life. They're going to look at it and rebuttal back on you about that. And it's going to be hard to ask for people for favors whenever you or need, some love when you're going through those challenges. But when it comes to government, they know exactly because they look at your tax return. So when you buy that mortgage, you got to file that tax return. You get a 1099, which is on your taxes that says how much your mortgage payment is, how much your mortgage insurance, and they basically do the numbers of boop, 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 and this is how much you have. How they measure people doing good or not is through their own government data, far as CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, unemployment rate. Those are the basic two that they look at all the time.
So we have to make sure that we're being careful with our money. What are we telling our youngsters that, they get their education a lot from social media? And a lot of the times they're not paying attention to that credit card that they are receiving. So to the young audience, I really would like to know what your financial advice would be to them.
First of all, I think all learning should come from the home and from the family over what you hear on TikTok and social media, first and foremost. So when I say that is this, I have a 16-year-old, I have three kids, I have a 16-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So when your kids are at the teenage years, there's a couple things you should be teaching them. First of all, when they first get paid, when they start young as a kid, you should be teaching them how to save from the very beginning. Oftentimes, we teach our kids how to spend. So you say, go, here's the money, go ahead and buy some candy at the store. Here's the money, go ahead and buy some shoes. Instead of saying, here's the money, make sure you put this money towards savings first and foremost, put this portion towards investment, and you put this portion, now you can spend the rest of it you have, right? And if you go to church, you might say tithes or giving back to your community. That's your personal belief, right? And so you put these buckets of money for our kids early on in life. Then once you get an age, in their teenage years, you allow them to have a credit card with you, right? So you add them on as a holder, as account holder on your credit card. So now they're used to credit. So they're not shocked when they go to college or they leave out your home or they turn over 18 and they get on this credit card. They've been used to credit. They've been knowing what to do with credit at that point. And so at that point, they've been managing it at such an early age. It's normal for them. And then when they first get their job, you should have them open up a Roth IRA and a brokerage account so they understand about money and investing. But oftentimes, you're teaching themselves. The world and technology teach our kids on money, investing, and just our philosophies when we should be teaching that as a people instead of somebody else doing it.
I agree with that. I'm starting to see so many. I was watching something the other day and the girl got pulled over, and the first thing she said is, "Well, I saw on TikTok they told me to stay in my car." And the cop was like, "No, when I tell you to get out the car, you get out. You don't run a TikTok." But I didn't want to assume like, girl, who raised you? But these kids are ignoring people in front of them, parents, guardians, and running to TikTok to try to figure life out.
Yes, to a certain extent, I think we all did, right? But I think as a parent, our job and responsibilities is because I listened to my mother when I grew up, right? And I don't think none of us listen to our parents at a certain age. But I think our job as parents is to put the right team around them of positive people that they listen to. So when they was like, "Mom, you don't know what you're talking about," and they tell that to somebody else, "Well, Mama said this," and they say the exact same thing you did. You're like, you know what, you're right. Instead of having ego, like I told you, you like I put the right person on the team, and they listen to them and they listen to their input, and that's what you want. So I think our job at a certain point is to put the right team around our kids where they listen to them. They might not listen to us, but they listen to somebody else in the community who has the same values and philosophy as you are, where they might say the same exact thing, and they just you like you're absolutely right. You just first time you heard of that? I said that about 25, 35 times. So yes, I definitely agree.
That is perfect. So what are we giving? And I'm saying we like I'm some type of financial advisor, but to the people that are opening up their businesses, taking out loans, going to the banks. This is something that a lot of people want to do, but the financial hardships that we're facing might be discouraging them. Is it anything that you can tell those people?
Yeah, if you start a business, first thing I tell everybody, you start a business, you have this dream, you have this admiration to start a business. You have a pie in the sky, you open up this business, you have the storefront with your signage on it. And we get excited, but I'll always go back to the fundamentals. First and foremost, you should get a business plan done. And now you might be asking, "Oh, I wrote this 2 or 3 page business plan." No, that's not a real business plan. I mean a truly in-depth business plan. But the great thing is, if we're all taxpayers, we're all citizens of this country, there's a program that we all should be taking advantage of. I don't care where you are in this country. Is go to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and the Small Business Development Centers throughout all 50 states. They're everywhere, and what they'll help you do is put together a 12 to 14 week class you take that help you put together your business plan. And the great thing about it is free. Now, with that business plan, it's going to let you understand the finances of your business. It's going to let you know your SWOT analysis, which is your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and threats. It's going to help you understand your mission statement. Who's your market? Who's your niche you're going afterwards? And they'll also have consultants who are bankers like, you know what, you need to have this bank relationship. You need to have this relationship for your business. And they'll help you get your business up and growing. But oftentimes, we just be moving too fast. We get excited to do things because we got $2 in our pocket and we need to slow down, have them put together a thorough plan so we can see what hiccups you have and get everything in order.
So what's your advice for the ones who trying to get their credit score up? We got some people that kind of took a hit. I don't keep wanting to blame the pandemic, but some people was kind of balling. You know what I'm saying?
Lifestyle creep. It's lifestyle creep. People are having lifestyle creep, and that's what happens. Once you live a certain lifestyle, you want to maintain that lifestyle. And oftentimes, people go further in debt trying to maintain that lifestyle that they got used to.
And I want to say that's what happened to a lot of people. If you sitting up collecting some money, and doing the things that maybe you weren't able to do. So when people was pulling out that card and, pretty much throwing it in a bag, what happened next is that credit score took a hit. Some people are still trying to recover from that because it feels like once one bill is covered, another new bill or an existing bill is right around the corner. So now you feel like you swimming. How can we get our credit score just back where we feel comfortable to buy certain things, such as cars and things of that nature?
Cars are easy to get. You're gonna charge you a leg and an arm, but you can always get a car, right? They're always gonna finance a car, right? You might pay 25, 35% interest, but you can always get a car. But if you have financial issues in the past, a couple of things you should do. One is talk to your financial institution that you have problems with and set up an arrangement with them. Say, hey, I can't do this. I'm going through hard times. I'm going layoffs. Things are tight, and they don't want to wipe off take those losses on the books for that credit. So they will work with you, but you can't put your head down. You say, I could do this. Can we do some type of payment arrangement? And they will do that. The second thing you do after you call them, you got to relate. You talk to them, and now you're on a payment plan to pay down that debt. They'll make those terms longer, extended. They will lower those rates. They'll make it affordable for you. But the second thing you can do also is get a couple secured credit cards. Now, with those secured credit cards, what you're going to do if you need to start fresh is you're going to whatever that limit is, you're going to use 30% of that limit. And so if you have a $300 limit, you're only going to do $100 of that. And that $100, you're going to buy items that you usually buy all the time, your gas and your food. Instead of paying directly with that, you're going to go ahead and put that back on that credit card or on that food and your credit card and make that payment on the credit card with the money that you normally would do. Do that on 3 cards and watch this slowly start building your credit back up. And that's how I recommend doing it.
Okay. What's your advice on bankruptcy? Would you suggest that? Or a lot of people I know is thinking about it, but what would your advice be on that?
2 things. One is talk to your financial institutions first and foremost. Talk to all the financial institutions if you feel overwhelmed and over your head with. They do not want you to file for bankruptcy, so they will work with you. Because if they take those losses, that's going to look bad on their books and to their stockholders, and they do not want that. So talk to them first. Second, before you even think about doing it, talk to a financial advisor, talk to a financial coach, and then a bankruptcy attorney as well to see what your options and see if it's really worth it. But don't let the short term affect you for the long term with it.
Right. Now, can you talk a little bit more about the bankruptcy? Because I've always heard certain things about it. And I think that you just educated me more than what I knew. A lot of people might think it's a quick fix. Okay, I'm going to just file bankruptcy. It's going to wipe my bills off. And I mean, it sounds good, right? But if you can just dive into that a little bit more, I know you said speak with your bank, your financial institution, and see what they can do. But some people really do run straight to bankruptcy. What's the downsides of filing for bankruptcy?
Okay, let's talk about the pros and the cons. The pros is yes, it allows you to restructure your debt, right? So that might give you some relief on your month-to-month cash flow. The downfall is your credit is going to take a hit, right? And you have to hit, and so it's going to delay you from it's going to delay you from building your credit for a couple of years. So 3 to 5 years, you're not going to be able to use your credit like you once was as well. But you restructure your debt to give you some short term, to give you some relief because of the debt you might have.
Okay, so I'm glad that you broke down the pros and cons, because I don't know if people really know the cons. We hear the pros and we go for it, but you just broke all of that down, and I appreciate that. Now, I know you probably weren't always as educated as you are now. What's your backstory and got you into educating us? Because you're doing a phenomenal job, but do you mind sharing with the audience what your backstory is and what made you just hop into this to help us out?
Yeah. So funny story. So both my parents grew up in the segregated South. My mother from a town called Monroe, Louisiana. My dad from the small town, one light town, where the front of my grandmother's house was the bayou, behind it was the Gulf of Mexico. And they both met here in Oakland, California. When I was 6 months old, my parents divorced, and then when I was in 3rd grade, my dad got diagnosed with lung cancer. And then a week before I started 7th grade, unfortunately, he passed away. Now, when my dad passed away, we only have $10,000 worth of life insurance, and he did not do the proper planning. And when they say when you lose one parent, you lose 2. And I remember my mother waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, leaving out the house at 5 to commute to work, and calling me at 6:37 when she arrived to work to wake us up. And it just taught me how money and finances can impact all of us and our lives. So, um, so at that point, it always had me intrigued by money and finances. And then I was lost for a number of years, my teenage years, and I had a friend of mine used to cut my hair in his barbershop. His uncle was a window cleaner. He had his own business. I aspired. I love that. He hired everybody in the neighborhood for his window cleaning business, and I wanted to start a business from that point. And so I started. He gave me money, financial books, Money Rich Dad Poor Dad, other finance books. And then about 21 years ago, I met somebody who gave me an opportunity to work for a financial institution, and I jumped on that opportunity. And then during the Great Recession, my mother was just like many Americans, where her job decided to move her from California to North Carolina. She chose not to. She had her sisters here. One of them was sick, and she was help caring for her, and she didn't want to do that. But like many Americans, she felt she had age discrimination, right? Where you start getting gray hair, can't find a job that pays well, especially at that time. This is when Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Washington Mutual was closing, Wachovia. And at that point in 2009, I started to start my own firm because I wanted to help people who were just like my mother, who were great savers, knew what to do, but it was too young to retire, but been working and sacrificed so much. And I really want to be able to educate and give people the proper tools on what they can do to prep for the life and their dreams.
And we greatly appreciate that. The fact that you decided to take this and share it with other people, and now you have your own firm. You
Correct.
tell people, because like I'm all the way in Indiana, but like I said, when I seen you on that clip, I'm like, man, he seemed to know what he's talking about. Is way more than what I know. Just in that snippet, it taught me something. Um, what are we telling these people where they can find you? What's your handle, social media, and more about your firm?
Yeah, our firm is Matthews Financial Insurance Solutions. You guys can find us in a couple different ways. One is through our website, mfis.biz, B-I-Z. If you want to find us on YouTube, it's just Jason Matthews. And then any other social media outlet is just MFIS Guru. MFIS Guru as well.
Okay. Jason, in closing out, do you have anything to share with the audience as far as, I know we covered just a smidgen, about the finances. Is it anything that you want to put out that maybe these people are not picking up?
Yeah, I was just saying, right now, I think we're in a world of fraud and everything else. Tell people, take a pause. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not too good to be true. Have a plan on what you're doing. Right now, we're getting so much bombarded by news as it's changing every second, all the time. Do not let it disturb who you are. Have a long-term approach, and don't let these speed, I call it speed bumps in life, these little bumps and fracking the roads affect us and our whole long-term plan and approach. Have a plan, make adjustments, and you should be okay.
Make the adjustments, have the plan, write it down, budget. I love the fact that you gave me your time. I greatly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, the financial guru, you go to his page, I promise you are going to get educated. And if you click down on his link, you go have that Nipsey Hussle intro. I told him, I said, listen, I rock with Nipsey. This is what made me feel good about even approaching you. But we have the financial guru, Jason Matthews, who has his own firm. And let me tell you, you heard his story. He just summed it up. But if Jason can do this, guys, you can as well. This is definitely food for your soul. Educate yourselves. Jason has laid the blueprint out. I know I've learned, like I said, certain things that I'm taking mental note. I really want to thank you. You all follow Jason Matthews and the Matthews Financial Insurance Solutions. And it should be more on there, right? So I know you said you got some YouTube. You are on TikTok and all those things under Jason Matthews, right?
Correct. Underneath Jason Matthews. Correct.
All right. So Jason, thank you again for
You're
educating
welcome.
my audience. This has been really one of the dreams come true. I always wanted somebody to hop on and lead us to water, and it looked like you got us there. So, you all, if you are listening, this is both audio and video. I mean, I want you all to check out Jason. Jason is doing the thing. Like I said, I'm seeing him on news outlets. This is amazing because I know he's not finished. Like we really and truly need this shoved down our throat. If we don't need anything else, now we seeing these prices are making people fearful to live. And that's the truth. I didn't even get into people not being able to afford their medications and things like that. I mean, it's getting crazy and we need to know how to adjust with the times. Jason, would you consider us um, in a depression, or do you think we're headed there? What do you think the state is now?
I would not call it depression. I'd call it stagflation.
Okay.
Stagflation. With depression, that means. Do you remember 2008, 2009? Everybody got laid off. There was no
Yes.
credit, no nothing. Everybody. Right now, everybody's working. Right. Everybody has
Yes.
some money. 2008 was like that. But the economy just, to me, everything just putted. But you have this inflation where prices are going up at the same time. To me, it reminds me of stagflation like our parents had in the late 60s and 70s and early 80s. That's what I see more than a recession where nobody's eating, nobody making no money, no nothing. At this point, we do not have that. We're at more of I call a stagflation time. And we're going through a period of time where the world is changing right before we know it. There's some crucial things that we people don't realize is happening, but it's happening in this world. One thing is demographics is changing. People are getting older, and we don't have as many kids. When you don't have as many kids, it makes your economy slow down naturally, right? And then we have a huge amount of debt, not just individual debt, but our government and corporate debt is at all-time highs. And that's where we're seeing a lot of changes happening as well.
Stagflation. Okay, I got to remember that word. And one more thing, I know we talked about this, but I just kind of wanted to bring this out before I left. The difference between, I told you, is it a difference between inflation and price gouging? Because in my opinion, I started to look at eggs and bacon, and I promise you, in my life, I ain't never seen bacon the price that I'm seeing it now, where I'm like, look, now, if I see bacon that's $15, $16, it got to be the whole pig. Okay. Like I'm not buying slices of the pig, not for no $15, $16. So one of my questions was, is it a difference between price gouging and inflation? And your response was,
We have inflation, but when people see opportunities, they're going to gouge and raise prices. So we see here in the Bay Area. I'm in California. Everybody knows our prices are super high, right? So we just had an oil refinery that 10% of all the oil was getting refined here for the state of California. Well, our price of gas just went up. And then our PG&E, right? Our electricity and stuff, they just have record-breaking profits. But they keep saying, we got to raise rates. We got to raise rates, which means this is my view. You're always going to have, we naturally have inflation. But when people in entities see opportunities to make more money, they're going to do it. We're in a capitalistic society where we base everything on supply and demand. We started capitalism, and people are always going to try to take advantage of the situation. That's natural human nature. Our job as people is to fight back and make those adjustments so we don't get caught up in all that. So maybe it's not no more eating us, no more 50-cent egg editions at the Waffle House, right? Waffle House
right.
charging $50 extra for an egg. You might have, hold on, we ain't gonna do that. No more bacon, right? We want to get some ham hocks, put in the beans and rice. So you had to make some adaptations and some adjustments towards your lifestyle, which we already see people are doing. People are eating out not as much, right? People are eating out less. So we see that one as a major adjustment compared to what people were doing at the time.
And you know what? I know I was about to wrap up, but I got a few more because now it's like now my mind is really going. So okay, lately, we have a lot of stores that have decided to take a few things away for minorities. And there's some people that say, okay, look, we're going to boycott. Does that still affect the dollar like it used to back in the day? Or what's your opinions about this?
Oh, you want to be really get in. If you don't boycott Cotton for a day, that don't mean jack. Let me be honest with you, right? I think this is a problem in people. I about to be really going in my 2 cents. People always talk about protesting, blah blah blah, right? And the problem when you allow other people to teach you about your history, you will never really know your history. So when we talk about the DEI, I want to say this, it's going to be unpopular. So when people hear about the DEI programs getting away, no more teaching Black history, I don't care about that really, because I feel like as people, we should be teaching ourselves. So when people say, I see people talking about we're going to protest Amazon for a day, all that's just accounting error. Nobody cares. But when we research our people, if you really want to affect things and how make prices come down, and you really pissed off about it, you protest like our parents did, right? Our grandparents. How long was Montgomery boycott for? Bus boycott.
Because see, I think,
Answer. How long was the Montgomery bus boycott for?
I'm sorry.
How long was the Montgomery bus boycott for?
That went a while, didn't it? It went a while.
How long was a while?
A few years.
Over a year, right?
Yes.
So if you're not doing that, if you're not in 381 days, if you're not doing that, you're not affecting the prices of anything. So if you're not committed to a long-term protest, strike, or anything, the prices are not going to come down at all. A one-day thing ain't going to affect it at all. A two-day thing is not going to affect it. Even a one-week thing is not going to affect pricing at all. Until people are ready to do a long-term, put their foot in the sand and make changes, nothing's going to change for its pricing or anything.
Now, I do totally agree with that because I see these stores are major stores. I think back in the day, yeah, it hit, because some of these stores may have just been beginning. But when you got major stores that are connected to other stores that we might not even know anything about, you still are supporting them. They don't have to put their name attached to it. But if you go to another store, you still in some way are not boycotting. I don't think it's hitting them like it did, like you said, back in the day. So
yeah. But because all these companies are publicly owned, like if you go Walmart, you know who owns Walmart because on all their financial documents, right? Because they're a publicly owned stock-owned company. Target's the same way, and all these other companies. You know who owns what, right? Now it is us being ignorant not to know who owns what. So that's where I feel like we gotta. If we're on social media, we're on TikTok, and we're willing to do the research there, it's nothing to actually to who does all the companies that Albertsons own. And you're like, all right, fine, I can go into those grocery stores and see what happens at that point. But we cannot walk around being ignorant when all the information is at our hands these days.
Yeah, it's all about educating yourself because I did want to ask that, and it just pretty much passed my mind up what your opinion was, and it kind of looked like we might be on the same level where people still are thriving. They still going to these stores. But do you think that was a smart move on their end to end the DEI? Some of these stores.
They don't care. They ain't tripping. You about to go there tomorrow anyways. They ain't tripping. Just because you ain't the flavor of the month. First of all, DEI, I want to say this. DEI was not for Black folks. And
Right.
the reason why I say that is if you look at the numbers and the stats, you do not have an increase of the number of Blacks who got jobs in these tech companies or these DEI firms or got put in executive positions. That did not happen. So I think they use DEI just like they use affirmative action to bamboozle us to say, hey, we're doing something for you for George Floyd, when at the end of the day, they didn't do nothing. It just sounded great. Just like affirmative action, other groups took advantage of it, right? Other minority groups, LGBTQ communities took advantage, but we did not take advantage of it because none of us got in higher. We was not a bump up in a number of us working in those leadership in those companies or taking those leadership positions. Now they might have hired a DEI person, but that person didn't have no teeth or no bite to hire. So it's like hey, I'm about to apply for you at Target. DEI person, hook me up and put my resume? Girl, I can't do that for you. I can't do that. I can't hook you up. They have no teeth. That supposed to be like, hey, yeah, you applied, girl, give me your application. I'm about to hire, make sure you hire. Technically, Apple didn't increase the number of us or Microsoft or any of these companies. So for me, DI was for other groups. It was not for us. So I think we need to don't let them get us excited about stuff that was not designed for us. Still wondering, now you're really going to make me, what happened to the George Floyd bill? That's what we wanted, right? People protesting in the streets for George Floyd bill. Did that get passed?
Yep. They did not.
You did not. Nobody says anything. People just start protesting. They pacify you, and by using DEI and the thing you want, you did not get.
They brought that George Floyd thing up, and it disappeared. It's almost like we have a rage for a short minute of time, and then we on to the next big shiny thing. So now it's the DEI, and people returning their stuff to Target and talking about not going to Target and let's not go to this store. I think it's something else that they said Chase actually ended the DEI. So now I'm starting to see people getting upset about that. But it's like you said, do you think it's just noise to distract us from something?
Oh, it is nothing but noise just to distract us. They know how to turn the dial to get us pumped up and excited and calm us down. They have mastered the human being more than ever. And there's two things people always should reference. There's a really, really good documentary called The Century of Self. It's on YouTube. It's an old documentary, but it talked about how there was a psychologist, and they switched from Germany, who came over here, and they switched the word from psychologists to marketers on understanding the psychology of us. Then the second person people should study is Eric Snowden and how they listen to our phone conversations and everything. So they understand who we are and they know how to get us excited and calm us down. Because for some reason, everybody's protesting the streets. Everybody's wild. And then one day we just shut down and say, oh, we're done. No reason why. Just did it. So I feel like they have figured us out and mastered us, the powers to be, on how we should move in this world.
I agree with you. Now, I really do, because I see a lot of us in our emotions, and then we can't wait to grab our phone and record about it. And is really no other action outside of everybody being pissed, mad. Sometimes we'll make a video, and then, like you said, we're on to the next. And so I'm glad I dived into that, because let me tell you, you shut some things down with that. But I think it's more people who think on that line and saying, look, the boycotting would be nice, but in order for them to really, really feel us, it has to be more than 2-3 days. Like you said, maybe a year, maybe over a year, but they got to really and truly feel it and be affected. They're not missing our money anymore, or our businesses anymore. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but I don't think so. What you say?
They don't need us no more.
No, that's true. I mean, it used to be, where that dollar was like, yes, but look.
Have you ever listened to Dr. Claude Anderson?
Have you ever what?
Have you ever listened to Dr. Claude Anderson?
No.
Recommend listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. He made a great prediction about 20 years ago and how it applied today. One of his famous quotes is, if you didn't get nothing when you was the majority minority, how do you think you're going to get something today when now you're just a minority? He said this book back in the day, and it has resolution. It came about now. Have you ever read his book, Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics? It would open up your eyes towards things.
Okay, you gave me some things to look into, seriously, but not just me. If anybody who has not, looked into that, you guys, please, Soon as we get off, I'm gonna look into that because I'm thinking in my mind, like, okay, I see everybody is upset. And I see everybody is trying to tell us how to protest and what to buy and what not to buy and where to put your money. But it has to be more than, like you said, a couple days. It has to be more than some post that you making too. You got to stand firm and find yourself shopping somewhere else. Sometimes, a Walmart is easier up the street than the mom and pop store.
Right. It goes back to, America's capitalism. Our official religion, we know nobody says it is money. And we got to remember that our official religion is money. So at the end of the day, is how does the money that you put in somebody's hands affect you, and because you're getting a service in return for every time you give somebody a dollar. And oftentimes, what it might be is this is where you might have a business. You start a business in your community, and your community starts supporting your business because now you open up a business in your neighborhood. Where you got your business license, you go open up this little store. It might not be nice as Target or Walmart, but people are buying from you. So you provide everybody with the toilet paper and everything, the pantry and all this stuff, right? Because you have your license, you can go to vendors, and now you got the ball rolling to really change and impact your community. And the people who are ready to protest, you might not have that state of that business mind, but you're supporting that business, and that business hiring people in your community who look like you. So now you have that flow of money's happening. Those are the type of things that people should consider when we're talking about protesting, right? Not just I'm mad for a day or two, blah 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 blah. Hey, when they do when they do the quarterly reports they do for these stocks, these companies, nobody's worried about that day or two. It's going to be just fine.
I agree. I do. Jason, I would love to have you back. But look, I know that you seem to be booked and busy, but I would love for this to be a part two because I think we just dived into something and the conversation got to going. So the door is always open. To put your phone down door is always open for us to get educated. I think we just started something and I would love to have you back. I'm wrapping up this time, but I just couldn't help myself. But Jason, yes, Jason, we want to thank you so much for gracing this podcast and educating us. And look, waking us up. It's time for us to kind of get back in the game and get educated about where we're putting our money into and what effects our money is having on certain businesses. So this is my second time, but ladies and gentlemen, we have Jason Matthews who educated us down to the top to the bottom about what to do with your finances. Jason, thank you so much for hopping on. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode will be available on all platforms, and we can't wait to hear your feedback. Show Jason some love by following him on all the platforms that says Jason Matthews. Jason Matthews, would it be under the Matthew Financial? Because there's a lot of Jason Matthews, so it would be under
Jason Matthews Financial, correct.
All right. So we got Matthews Financial. Please get educated. Jason, thank you again. You all, I am your host, Keisha from Put Your Phone Down podcast. I want you all to have a wonderful listen. Make this a conversation. Share it with the next person because we all need to know what to do and how to handle our money. Jason, thank you again for hopping on the podcast. And I'm leaving the door open for you to slide right through so we can have a part two with this, okay?
All right, perfect. That sounds like a plan with me.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you all for listening. Until the next time, have a good one.